to waste in the coming months. Even the New York Times now says the Taliban is likely to take over Afghanistan in the coming months, bringing back to power the very same people who harbored Osama bin Laden and allowed him to plan the 9/11 attacks. Here's the headline from the New York Times. As Taliban advance, Biden officials cling to hope for Afghan peace. DARRELL is a longtime member of Congress and spent years in the Foreign Affairs Committee setting policy for the war on terror and joins us now. Congressman, nice to see you as always. The New York Times continues. As Taliban fighters make startling swift advances across Afghanistan, Biden administration officials continue to pin their hopes on a peace deal that would halt the country's relentless violence with a power-sharing agreement. Why pin hopes on a deal with terrorists?
Well, you said it very well, but going back and looking at a piece of history, half a century ago, Richard Nixon made a peace agreement with the North Vietnamese and their backers. As soon as we left, they saw the opportunity, they broke the agreement, and the rest was helicopters taking people off the top of our embassy. The same is going to repeat itself for the same reason. The men and women of the military have won every battle. They've won the war. They've created an opportunity for peace. And politicians now are throwing away that peace in favor of their own personal belief that leaving is somehow better than stabilizing this country so that it can maintain its independence.
You know, this is not only President Biden's policy, this is President Trump's policy. The framework for this and the withdrawal timeline was set during his administration. Will he bear some of the responsibility for the Taliban taking over and embassies at the helicopters at the embassy?
I think every politician that helped us go into Afghanistan, anything more than what it took to take Osama bin Laden's people out, and then began with the process of nation building. That includes George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and now President Biden. Each and every one of them is part of a legacy of the military doing its job, earning us the space it would take, and then not having a plan for peace. George W. Bush said, and I'll never forget, that he said, we don't do nation building. Well, the truth is we don't do it well, and we haven't figured it out. We haven't figured it out in Afghanistan. We haven't figured it out in Iraq. And we'd better get to figuring it out, because as these countries topple, especially those that fall under a sphere of influence of China and Iran, we have more countries that are hostile to us, many of them on the borders of our best allies.
Oh. As scary as that is, it's true. Part of the argument for leaving Afghanistan is allow the U.S. military to pivot more to China, towards Russia, towards Iran, the same enemies you just mentioned. To that end, we have some interesting video out of Michigan, not far from a little city called Traverse City. And what you're looking at is A-10 Thunderbolts and then special operations aircraft flying not off of runways, but off of small rural highways, two-lane highways in the middle of Michigan, simulating what they would do if, for example, U.S. air bases were bombed and they had to operate there, or operate in Europe under similar situations. Does this mean that we're ready to take on China and Russia, or still a ways there?
No, we're not ready to use those techniques in an environment like Russia or China, where that A-10 would not survive, over their anti-aircraft. We saw that in Syria. What we are is we're able to take on the kind of peacekeeping missions where we have the backing of the UN and we have world support, and those aircraft are critical to it. And when we first went into Afghanistan, there was no question at all. We had to operate under poor runways or no runways, somewhat the same in Iraq at first. But I will say one thing, that the men and women of the military are prepared for a number of battles. The one that they're most prepared for are these kinds of 5,000 or 6,000 or 7,000 troops in Afghanistan, 1,000 or 1,500 special forces in Djibouti. In the case of the Northern Alliance, supporting in northeast Afghanistan, and the same in northeast Syria, supporting freedom fighters that are willing to fight for their country effectively. So we have a lot of special forces that are capable. Those are included in the people that are being pulled out by this administration. You know, when you meet with the Northern Alliance, the Afghans who in fact have been our allies for more than 20 years, what you discover is they are being sold out by this, and they are going to be in the same situation as those who, quite frankly, helped us as interpreters. So we're going to see a mass exodus of refugees from Afghanistan, very similar to Vietnam, very soon.
Well, and the refugees, the ones who get out, will be the lucky ones. Congressman Issa, thank you, sir. Always appreciate your time. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Leland. And it is 5 o'clock here.
I enjoy it. Coming up, we still got about 42 minutes together. Coming up, the curriculum controversy. What is really going on in America's classrooms?